What a colleagues So yeah, hi everybody, and welcome to the Winter 2022 edition of Encore Drinks. My name's George. Maybe we've emailed in the past, maybe you've seen me on the community page, maybe you've seen me leading a live stream help session for musicians, maybe you've got no idea who I am, that's fine as well. I'm a producer, guitarist, a bit of a synth nerd, if I can afford to be, songwriter and performer. But more importantly, I lead musician support here at Encore. So I spend all of my working hours trying to help musicians, trying to find solutions to their issues. And yeah, actually, in fact, if the Encore team could just all raise a hand and I can point out who here is working at Encore, I can introduce you really shortly. So over here, we have Tommy, who works with customers and customer support. At the back there, we have Jack, who works as a booking specialist, trying to convert bookings. At the back there, Johnny. Hi, Johnny. You may recognise him. He leads growth at Encore. I'm trying to peer around. Matt there is the designer of all the websites, so it looks amazing. We have Julio at the back there, who's conducting all the profile reviews tonight, and he's just in charge of getting everyone sort of looking really, really good on Encore, all the musicians. We have James here and James behind him. These are the two co-founders who started it way back when. We have Cormac at the back there, who is an engineer, I should say. And at the very back, we've got Morgan here on photography. We've got Sam, we've got Kareen, we've got Holly, and Jess hiding in the corner as well. So yeah, make sure you speak to the Encore members and grill them, because I sure will be. As I said, I lead musician support. So yeah, part of helping you guys is hosting these events. And yeah, I've been working at Encore for nearly 4 years, and in that time, a lot has happened in this country, I think it's fair to say. It's not been the most straightforward 4 years for helping musicians. There's been all sorts going on. We've worked and collaborated with our musicians in some really cool ways that I'm really proud of. So you may be thinking, what is Encore Drinks? What am I doing here? Can I go? Yeah, basically, when Encore started around 8 years ago, James? Yeah, around 8 years ago, my colleagues who were here before me started inviting musicians for these drinks. And there we quizzed musicians, asked them about the biggest issues that they're facing at the moment. We discussed best practices for taking gigs. We talked about online promo, and we tried to come up with some solutions to the biggest issues. So afterwards, the Encore team would bang their heads together and try and work out some solutions to the biggest issues that musicians are facing. And that's what we'll do tonight. But it's also a rare chance to meet people who do the same thing as you. A lot of musicians spend all their time during the week just kind of on their laptop, not really meeting other musicians. And then on the weekend, you meet clients, but you don't necessarily always meet other musicians. It's a good chance to meet your colleagues and speak about the things that you're all going through together. So yeah, just by a show of hands actually, who here is a band leader? A few? And who here does like mostly solo stuff? Okay, well, it's a bit more soloist in the house. Okay, cool. But yeah, both of those career paths can be pretty lonely through the week, so yeah, it's really great that we can meet up with fellow musicians and have a drink together and talk about how to improve things for you. We also like to invite guests to speak at these things who are really inspiring, which is what we have tonight. We have the Musicians Union, who are going to be with us in a little bit, who are one of the sort of most important organisations in the music industry. And if you're not a member, you should definitely join. And we'll hear a bit more from them later. But yeah, really excited to bring them today. Yeah, and over the course of the pandemic, Encore Drinks was paused. We used to invite people in quarterly, and yeah, we had to go virtual, which was really great. But sometimes, well, we've just been waiting for the day we've been able to invite you guys back in and meet you in the flesh. And that's what we've been able to do tonight. So yeah, really this lovely place. We've just moved into an office tour of Ministry of Sound. And yeah, actually let's make a big round of applause for the venue tonight. Yeah, it's been really great to have you in the flesh tonight. So yeah, here's the schedule for this evening. Coming up, we're going to have a short update from our CEO, James McAulay, who's going to be telling you everything we've been working on Encore recently and what's coming up in the future, and all the things we're trying to build for you. Then we're going to have a chat with Graham from the Musicians Union, that as I said, an organisation we really care about. And then finally, we'll open up the floor to both James and Graham for questions from you. We actually have live streaming in the community page on the community, so if any questions come in from there, then Tommy's going to let me know as well. And then afterwards, we're going to have an informal jam. We've got guitar, cajon, mics, backing tracks on the laptop if you want them. So yeah, you're more than welcome to get involved and just play some tunes. And, yeah, think of a work in progress or an old favourite of yours, and we'll have a bit of fun. And yeah, finally, a side note, if you booked a profile clinic with one of my colleagues afterwards, then they'll begin after the jam, so we'll pick those back up. And if you did miss out to capacity tonight, fear not, you can get in touch with my colleague Julio, speak to him afterwards, and he'll arrange one over the phone in the near future. So yeah, just to break the ice, going to record the icebreaker, because why not? Grab the person next to you. If that's who you came with, not them. I know, it's tempting. And ask them about their first ever gig, how many people came, who was there, how badly did it go, and then we'll start again in 3 minutes. Right? Go for it. Next, as I mentioned, I'd like to introduce James McAulay. As I mentioned before, James is the CEO, co-founder of Encore. He's been working tirelessly for the last 8 years on Encore, trying to make the life of working musicians a bit easier and trying to bring musicians and live music to more and more people. And he's done a really good job of that. So yeah, why don't you give it up for James McAulay?
Hi everyone, thank you for coming. It's so good to be back at Encore Drinks. We haven't done this since February 2020, and even then we were starting to get a little bit nervy about this pandemic that we were being told about. So yeah, very, very, very glad to be back and to have that mostly behind us. I am going to tell you a few things about what we've been working on at Encore. The team has grown to 25 people, I think, and it was about 10, I think, just before the pandemic. So we've got lots of people working at Encore now, doing very, very cool things for all of you, trying to make it easier to be a musician and trying to help you make more money playing music to people who want to hear music. So I'll tell you about that. I'll tell you about one of the really exciting projects that we've been working on, and it's a whole new sort of era for Encore. And then I'll answer any questions you have, and hopefully this should take about 10-15 minutes maximum. A little bit about me. I went to music school as a teenager. I studied cello and piano. I was very small as a teenager, so at one point the cello case was taller than me, which was great. And music theory and harmony, and it was a little bit like Cheetons, but up in Scotland. Then decided to go to uni and do computer science instead. But did loads of music while I was there. I was in a barbershop group and I had a band, a cello quartet, played an orchestra. It was amazing. And I just started to think that the way that musicians got booked felt pretty sort of chaotic, and I wanted to make it easier. And so left uni at the age of 20, moved to London, same day I graduated, and started Encore a couple of weeks later. So that's a bit about me. I'm going to see if this clicker works. It's working.
Swap hands.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. Right, what's been going on at Encore recently? We have been working on quite a few new features this year. This is the new messenger that you've probably seen if you're using the web version of Encore. I've blurred out these messages, but we added some new features, like you can add videos and you can add audio to your messages now when customers are asking you for examples of what you do. We added a feature called Review Replies, which is a really wholesome feature. We get hundreds of 5-star reviews every single week for all of you, from customers who are delighted with your performances. What I love about Encore is that half our bookings are weddings and the other half are very meaningful parties or big celebrations. And so when it goes well, customers are really happy and write these massive reviews. So we added this feature where you could reply to the review and just say thank you very much for having me. We've released this feature, which is a pre-event checklist, just trying to help with some of the admin of going out to gigs and sort of keeping track of what you need to do just before a gig. And you'll find this on I think it's the bookings page of Encore. Is there a weird sound coming from the microphone?
No, I think it's next door.
Oh, okay. I thought I had like a growling, like some sort of tiger. Right. Moving on. So we've been very, very busy this year. It's been an amazing year. And it's been our busiest year yet. I have omitted the numbers because that is confidential information, but what you can see from this graph is that it's been our biggest year yet for the number of inquiries coming through Encore. 2020 was a bit touch and go. We won't really talk about 2020, it wasn't a fun time for anyone. But last year, events came rushing back and everyone really wanted to hear live music, really wanted to celebrate being allowed out again. And so, yeah, this has been another really good year for inquiries at Encore. And October was actually our biggest month ever. So we set a new record for the number of bookings and the amount of money that was going through Encore last month. And we paid out nearly £550,000 to all of you, or to you, in October alone, which is really exciting, and that number just keeps on rising. We care a lot about the climate crisis at Encore, and last year we decided to do something about it instead of just telling people that we care about it. So now, every time you get booked on Encore, we offset the carbon emissions of your travel. So we ask you, how are you getting to the gig? How many miles away is it? And then we use a calculator and we pay to offset the carbon emissions of your travel. And we also plant a tree as well. Now, because we've been doing all these bookings, we've planted quite a lot of trees. And that does make Encore the most sustainable place to book musicians in the world. But what's more important is that we made a promise to plant 20,000 trees by the end of this year, and we are just going to make it. We're at 19,770. So that round of applause is for all of you, because we only plant these trees when you get booked. So we made this decision, but all of it happened because you're getting bookings, because you've put time into creating these amazing profiles and talking to customers and winning bookings. So that round of applause really should be for you, not for us. But yes, we've got about, how many days now? 34 days. I'm just going to plant another 200 odd trees. So we're going to make it, and that's very exciting. We have been forming partnerships with a lot of companies in the event space. Last month we hired Jess, who is forming a whole new partnerships team at Encore. So she is basically making friends with wedding venues and event venues and corporate bookers and getting them to book musicians through Encore. This picture is from last week when Coke booked a gospel choir with Encore and had them do a huge sing-along karaoke in Piccadilly Circus with the Holidays Are Coming truck, which is quite cool. Coke spent a lot of money, and so we're very, very grateful that Jess has joined, and she's going to be making friends with more companies that have lots of money to pay musicians to do cool gigs. So yes, we're very excited about that, and you can expect to see a lot more of these high-end bookings coming into Encore next year. And so that leads on to this new era for Encore that we are so excited about, and this massive change that we're making to Encore that is literally underway as we speak. So this year we began the biggest project we've ever worked on. It's the sort of project that you put off for 4 years because it's really difficult, but very excited to have started it. So when we talk to musicians, the biggest piece of feedback that we get from all of you is Encore's great, or Encore's good, or Encore could be better, but Encore's great, let's go with that. But quoting for all the gigs takes a lot of time. And we're aware that Encore has gotten really popular now, and there are lots of these inquiries coming in, and you need to sort of write out a quote and choose a price and reply to all these gigs if you want to get booked. And so it worked when we were small, when we were doing maybe 100 bookings a month, but we're doing a lot more than that now. And now that we're a much bigger company, and I think we might be the biggest provider of live musicians in the UK by the number of bookings, but that's not entirely confirmed. Anyway, now that we're bigger, we need to think of a better way of doing it that takes a lot less time for you. And so we started to imagine this scenario where what if you had like an assistant who was on Encore for you and was sending these quotes instantly whenever inquiries came in for you? And imagine you had someone who's basically sending quotes like immediately on your behalf, and you get into conversations with customers, but you yourself wouldn't need to sit on the Encore website and reply to all these inquiries. And so we've built instant quoting, which I will tell you all about, but it's a huge shift from where Encore is at the moment. So as I said, we've wanted to do this for years, and it's a hard problem. We know that coming up with a system that sends these quotes instantly for you and gets the price right and accounts for travel and accounts for whether it's a Saturday or a Tuesday and accounts for whether it's a very busy date in July or a very dead date in February. There's a lot of different variables that you need to take into account in order to sort of immediately send these instant quotes. So, you were introduced to Matt and Cormac earlier. Matt joined us as our designer in March, and Cormac joined as one of our engineers in the summer. And they've been building this whole new system for automatically sending these quotes on your behalf. So you can select where in the country you are willing to travel to, and then you can sort of go in within each of those locations and tell us how much you charge in that location. You can tell us that, for example, you charge 10% more in December because it's Christmas, but you charge 20% less in January because it's very quiet and you'd rather get some gigs in January than no gigs in January. You can tell us that you actually charge less on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday because, again, those are maybe quieter dates, but you charge your normal prices every other day of the week. You can tell us that you charge 25% more on Christmas Day. If someone wants you to spend your Christmas Day playing music for them, they better pay you more. The same with New Year's Eve. You might want to charge, say, 50% more, as an example. And then we built this calendar as well, so you can tell us when you're available and when you are not available. And over time, we're hoping to integrate this with maybe your Google Calendar or maybe your Apple Calendar or something like that, so that it knows when you're free. So this is all a sort of work in progress, but it's looking amazing and it is working. So we've been running a trial this month with 5 volunteers who said, "Yep, I'm happy to be a guinea pig. Let's see if this works." And we've already done 14 bookings so far this month, where those musicians didn't have to send a quote. They basically got an email saying this customer has some questions for you, but they've already seen your price. They know that you're free, and if you answer those questions, they're probably going to book you. So it's a huge step forward, and we've been getting really, really good feedback from musicians. One of them said he's had a play with it, and in short, it's excellent. Someone said it was worth me putting the time in to sort of get it set up, because I've been getting gigs out the other side. The test phase is amazing, it's ready to go. I really like the map so that you can sort of show where you want to play, and it's great, I love it. So yeah, it's going down pretty well so far with those 5 musicians who've given it a spin. And you're probably wondering yourself, when are you going to be able to try this out? So there is still quite a lot for us to do before we can actually sort of roll it out completely across the whole site. But roughly, very roughly, we're hoping to bring soloists onto this at the start of next year, and we're hoping to get groups involved in the spring. And that's because, obviously, when you have a group, it gets a little bit more complicated. There's multiple diaries to look at, multiple people to check, whether they're free or not. But we are hoping that by the summer next year, you no longer have to, send all these quotes on Encore. You've got this system that's automatically sending quotes for you based on your, where you're going to travel, whether you're free, all the pricing stuff I showed you. And you can spend more time making music or practicing or literally doing nothing instead of actually sitting on Encore and sending all these quotes. So yeah, we're very excited about it, and we do think it sort of represents a new era for Encore. So that's everything I wanted to tell you. Thank you for listening to me, and if you have any questions, I'd be delighted to try and answer them.
Just to say, I think we should save the questions for after BMU, so we can so we don't like run out of time, and we can have a big question session, involve everything, if that's all right with everyone else. But thank you, James. Woo! Yeah, that was really cool. Thanks to James for taking the time to share that with us. I'm really excited to introduce our next guest for the evening, Graham Jackson from the Musicians Union. Why don't you give a round of applause for Graham, please? You're quite far away here. Yeah. We're not in the way too much, are we? Yeah, that's lovely. Cool. Yeah. Is that working? Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, so Graham, you've been involved in music for a long time. You've been involved in musician education. Yeah. Why don't you give us a bit of your musical backstory and how you got involved in Musicians Union before start?
But I'm not a musician.
You're not a musician?
That is an important part. Okay. So I'm not a professional musician. So stage lights, all this isn't me. Okay. So this is all you. This is the wrong way around. Okay. Now my background is that I, like a lot of people, I studied music at school, and it was one of the things that I was actually into. I mean, make you laugh, I actually got an award at school for music. I mean, that is hilarious. I mean, skip to the end as it were, but I basically found that my role in the industry was being on the business side, so supporting musicians in their careers. So for quite a few years ago, I worked for BASCA, is now called the Artists Academy, and then I taught music business for a long time at places such as BIM. And then in the last 2.5 years ago now, approaching 3 years almost now, that's gone fast, I've been working for the Musicians Union on a permanent basis. So I've been supporting musicians, hopefully throughout my career, but at the Musicians Union for the last 3 years.
Amazing. That was quite an interesting time to join a company like the Musicians Union.
It was, yes. So I'd already done 2 temp roles at the MU before that. I'd worked in the recording and broadcasting department, and I had temped in this role in the London office previous. But you're right, when I went to join, I started off part-time when I got the job because I was finishing off teaching, due to go full-time on a certain day. And actually I went part-time and it was all working in the office. And by the time I went full-time, I was actually, everyone was working from home because of COVID. So fortunately I've got a fantastic team and they massively supported me through it because basically, I remember this, so Natalie is my colleague sitting here, and she's part of the fantastic team I mentioned, and she said to me when I worked in the office, she said, well, we use Teams, so we've been meshing each other on Teams, and I thought in my head, I'm never going to use that. Of course, the rest is history, and it basically became a way of life. So, fortunately I've got a fantastic team, and don't be surprised, Natalie being part of a fantastic team will not stop tonight, in the sense that any questions you ask that I don't know, expect me to look panicked at Natalie for her to give me the answer, okay? Because that's a common occurrence in our office.
Fantastic. So as I said, it's a really crazy time to join, and it's still quite crazy. Musicians, everyone in the country is taking financial hits, and it's a really tough time. I was wondering what going into the deeper question, your assessment of the cost of living crisis is. How has this impacted Musicians Union members? What's your assessment of it?
Which I'll give you a bit more of a serious response to the COVID situation as well,
sure,
first of all, perhaps, which is that throughout that period, the inquiries we had, the inquiries that we get now, and we had before, and we get loads of different inquiries on many different subjects in relation to being a musician, because our members, some are music teachers, some are working in live, some are working in recordings, some are working in orchestras, theatres, so they're in all areas of the industry, and actually some of them work in multiple areas of the industry, so they all have, and if you're getting in touch with the MU as a member, you get in touch with your regional office, which is, so I work in the London region, Nat works in the London region, although not for much longer, because she has been promoted to our live department, so can you join me in congratulating Nat? So there's inquiries, so one of those inquiries that we get often in relation to live work is unpaid fees. So when COVID hit, of course, one of the changes was we weren't getting the unpaid fees questions. What we were getting questions was about how do we support members during the period when actually they're not getting the gigs, and actually our advice had to change. Actually, multiple things have changed. Arguably, the MU website, looking at the website, was a standard template for many years, and a few things have changed that. One of those was, probably the first of those would have been Brexit. We had to have a special page for Brexit. We have a special page for that. So if you're going to be touring outside of the UK, you can go onto our website and there's a Brexit flowchart which tells you about all the things you need to tour in different countries. And I recommend any of you check that out. You don't have to be a member to see that. You can go and check that out. But again, special page. COVID led to not just one, but many special pages on how to negotiate the industry. It's now probably down to about one, but it was many pages for the guys that need to interpret the government guidance. And you're right, most recently, the special page that we've had to create has been about cost of living and supporting members through that, because it's bigger than just tweaking the advice. You know, it's something that has to be dealt with in its own right.
Yeah, totally. That's a really good answer, and thank you for being so thorough on the backstory as well. A lot of the questions at Encore we get are around pricing. Obviously, one of the things musicians union for is the recommended rates and things like that. So, which are obviously great for setting a standard for like industry guidelines for how much musicians should get paid. How are they sort of impacted now in terms of inflation? I know you update them every year. Is every year that you update the recommended rates? How are they sort of impacted by inflation? How are you approaching that?
So what happens is, going back to how the structure of the MU works, we've got both a national and a regional structure. So we've got the regional offices which deal with the whole range of inquiries. And then we've got national departments which are specialised, so they are the music education department, the live department, the orchestra department, etc. And what happens is that there's committees for each of those areas, national and regional, and those committees are made up of musicians, made up of members, and they essentially decide what the national departments and the regional departments do, and they feed into our executive committee, which again is a committee of members, of musicians. If you want to put it in a really simple way, it's musicians that get to decide what I do. That's the truth. I don't get to just pick what I do. It's musicians that decide what's important. So back to that idea of, well, how do we reach a recommended rate? It's musicians that decide that. It's a committee that sits down and makes the decision to agree the rate at least, and say, yes, this is the right amount, we can increase it at this time. So answer that question for now. Was it more?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Another thing I want, because I guess you spend a lot of time speaking to musicians who are worried about what to say to customers, worried about how to approach things. What would you recommend to a musician that wants to increase their fees at the moment because of the way that everything's getting more expensive, that's maybe a bit worried about the client having the same issue, maybe worried that the client can't afford to pay the high rate? What would you recommend to a musician like that?
Well, the first thing I'd link to is one of our ongoing campaigns, which is Work Not Play. And I think the unfortunate truth is, because playing music should be fun, it's perceived as something that's just fun. And actually, our job is the job of that campaign, and part of the job of the MU is actually to encourage people broader than the industry, obviously in the industry as well, to understand that it's not just fun, it's a job. It's a musician's job, a livelihood. So actually, and you've got to remember that when you're, as a musician, that you've got to fight for that as well. So yes, we're fighting for it, but again, as I say, the union is a union of musicians, and so musicians have got to fight for that and for that understanding. So yes, when you are costing a job, it is your livelihood.
Absolutely, here. And I also just wanted to touch on, because it's obviously a really sort of relevant issue at the moment, is petrol, travel fees, those sorts of things. How have they changed in the last 6 months to a year with everything getting more expensive? How do you recommend that people price those things?
Well, I'm going to look nervously at Nat because I know she's going to give a better answer than others. So let's just see what she says about my answer here. So HMRC will give you a guidance on what the minimum should be. Ultimately, as I said, it's back to costing your work. So you know the costs that are involved in doing your gig, whether the costs that cost you to travel to a gig, and and the parking and everything else, and so you need to cost that into your gig. If there's other costs, such as congestion charges that you can pass on to the engager as well, they need to be aware of that. You know, I think it's about being upfront about what the cost of the gig is. How do they do that? Is that all right? 10 out of 10. Thank you very much. So yeah, that would be the answer.
Okay, brilliant. So yeah, how often? We were talking about how often you update the regular rates. When's the next the recommended rates? When's that next due to be updated? Do you know?
I think January. Okay, thank you.
Interesting.
It does depend on the sessions.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so yeah, definitely keep your eyes peeled for them, because as we all know, at the moment, being a musician and pricing yourself, pricing travel is really, really difficult. So definitely keep your eyes peeled for this.
I just come back to that point of the rates that we recommend are minimums. That's really important. And so you see that as where the minimum you start off, and then you have to think cost from there. You say, actually, that's the minimum recommended. What are my costs on top of that? And I think that's really important for people to remember.
Just coming back to what you're talking about, work not play. One of the biggest things you guys campaigned for recently is how to say no to unpaid work. What's the approach there? What do you say to musicians who maybe really want to do a gig, but it's a great opportunity, but there's not the payment there that's required to actually pay for their time, pay for their work? What's the advice of MU in those sorts of situations?
Well, it's probably not a great opportunity.
Yeah.
That's probably the long and short of it.
Yeah.
The truth is, everyone will say, that work not play. Everyone will tell you that something's a great opportunity because it will encourage something else. Because someone will say, oh, you can do a cheaper live gig because you're going to do some record sales. Someone will say, oh, you're not going to get much money for your records because you'll get more money for your live gigs. Actually, you should be making money from all of it, because again, it's your livelihood. There's no, if you're not getting paid the amount of money you're due, then it's not right.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really important. Really important. Just on being a musician at the moment, if they're coming to the musicians union and they're not able to pay their bills, not able to afford the life that they've been living for the last few years, because everything's getting so much more expensive. What opportunities are there? What help is there available from the musicians union by being a member?
I'm going to can I just jump back to the previous thing we discussed? I realised there's something else I need to say on that actually, but I will come to that.
Yeah. So
actually, back to that idea of if someone's telling you that that you should be accepting a lower fee than what you're due. So one of the schemes that we have is the fair play venue scheme, which is where we encourage venues to sign up to our fair play principles. You'll find on our table up there we've got some fair play guides, and you get it on the website as well. I should say about the table, grab free stuff as well. Grab as much of that as you can. Grab a tote bag, it means I don't have to take it home. That'd be amazing. Get the fair play guides, and so we ask them to sign up those principles because what we want to encourage is best practice in terms of paying musicians, and that you don't have any venues turning around and going, oh, we don't have to pay those fees, because actually ultimately it's in everyone's interest for you to be able to earn a living from what you do, because the venues are making money off of your work, so therefore you should be paid for it. So that's the idea. So that's part of the idea about fair play venues. So again, another thing, if you are getting told by someone, you're an MU member, you're getting told by someone that you shouldn't be expecting our minimum rate, for example, let us know. We'll write to them. We'll tell them. We can keep your name out of it, and we'll say, we're hearing that you're encouraging people to work for less than the MU minimum, and it will encourage them to not do that. They should be offering the minimum at least. That was that point I wanted to make. But back to what you said about the cost of living, and I think the thing is, so we're a union. We do collective bargaining for members. We do rates of pay. We do lots of services, which we'll talk about, sure. But we're not a benevolent fund. We do have a benevolent fund. So if members are struggling, they can apply to us for some money, but it's not much. Actually, in all honesty, the best thing we can do, I think, for members is tell them about the places where they can get money. So I would encourage members who are struggling to reach out to places such as what is now called PRS Members Fund, used to be called PRS Members Fund. PRS Members Fund, reach out to help musicians, reach out to BAPAM. That wasn't what I was thinking of, but I'll come back to the other one in a minute. But yeah, there is there's other places that we go again, and we'd encourage people to check out places where they're going to get the funding they need. Royal Society of Musicians. Sorry, there you go. That was what I was trying to think of there. So Royal Society of Musicians are places where you can get the funding, and you can get more than you get from us, for example, because we operate as a union rather than a benevolent fund.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I would also your points on tote bags. Most importantly, you just said, because I've got my eyes on one of those tote bags.
Thanks, John.
No worries. Great. So yeah, you guys have a ton of perks, if you remember. I don't know, by show of hands, who here is a musicians union member? Quite a few of you. Yeah, what if I'm a musician and I haven't signed up to a union? What do you recommend? What do you sell it to me? What am I getting from joining the musicians union? Why should I be part of this?
Yeah, it's fine. So I think the first thing to say is, again, I said about the free stuff, and yes, it's a joke, but the truth is, I want you to take free stuff because I'm going to talk up here about the musicians union, and I'm going to think, I've done a great job. But the truth is, I'll probably forget to mention the one thing that makes the union, one of the main things that makes the union of benefit to you. So my big ask actually after today, if you think that, okay, I'll do grab a favour. The favour I'd ask of you is to go and check out the MU website, because that's where you'll really find out what we do for you as an individual musician, because we do so many things for so many different musicians. So that's, again, the free stuff on the table there is ultimately to get you to the website. And one thing to say about the website is there's loads of stuff you can access for free. You don't need to get them for. You can get those recommended rates for free. You can get our specimen and standard contracts for free in all areas of the industry. There's other stuff you can get for free. I'm just trying to think of it off the top of my head. I don't want to spend more time about some of the free stuff. But there is other stuff you need to be a member for. So, for example, if you are in a position where you are offered a contract, whether that be a recording agreement, management agreement, for example, and you can get that looked at by a solicitor as part of your membership, and we provide the advice back to you, and then you the membership with the other parties with that advice. That's just part of your membership. If you are in an employment situation, for example, as a music teacher, and you're in a position such as grievance, disciplinary, or redundancy, we're a union. Legally, we're able to support you in those processes. I say we are a union, and we work with other unions as well. So we have a representative on the National Executive Committee of the Labour Party. We work with FIM, which is the international body of all musicians unions around the world, and we work with other unions, such as you can get joint membership with both the UCU, University and Colleges Union, and the National Education Union. That's because, again, so many of our members are also music teachers, and they want to be a member of both, and you can do that as a joint membership. We have other joint memberships. So, okay, actually, I'll move on to that. So that's because we're a union. We have those because we're a union, but we're also a music industry body. So we also work with other bodies within the industry. So we are a member of UK Music. We're the voice for musicians on UK Music, which is the umbrella body that where the industry can talk together to government. We'll do it via UK Music. So other bodies that we work with there include the Ivers Academy, include Music Managers Forum, include Features Artists Coalition, Music Producers Guild, and more that I'm probably forgetting right now. Apologies to all of them that I'm forgetting. But the truth is that where we can work together, that we will do that via UK Music for political lobbying. But we also have joint memberships there. So, for example, we have a joint membership with the Ivers Academy as well. But yeah, that's because we're a music industry body as well. So we're a union, which means we work with other unions, but we're a music industry body, which means we work with the rest of the industry to achieve the best we can for you as musicians. I can't actually remember the original question there. I kind of went off on myself.
That's very helpful. going to ask you one more question, and it is really important. I know you could probably talk for 10 minutes about it, but just on the fixed streaming campaign, I know it's less relevant to live gigs, but it's such a huge thing at the moment, and something that musicians and artists everywhere are really getting messed around by. Could you just tell everyone a little bit about what you're working on to sort of try and campaign to fix streaming?
Yeah. Do you know, it's a really complex area because it's not one ask, but I try to simplify it like this. And back to your point about COVID, is that when live gigs couldn't happen, you had big name musicians saying, I can't make a living for the music industry, and yet at the same time you had record labels announcing record-breaking profits because of streaming income. And that's not right. And that's what the Musicians Union said. It's not right. How can it be right that the people who create the music are not reaping the rewards that's coming from the way that that one of the main revenue streams for the music industry right now? And that's what, again, it's not one ask, there's different ways to look at it, there's different things we're asking within that. We're asking for equitable remuneration for non-featured artists, and there's other things that we're asking for, but broadly speaking, it's about solving that issue and saying, actually, making sure that the money from streaming ends up in the pockets of the people who make the music, the musicians.
Fantastic. I mean, that was really comprehensive and really great. I want to open up the floor to questions from everyone else, both for Graham, the Musicians Union, but also to Encore. So James, if you wouldn't mind sort of coming back to sit next to Graham. And then, yeah, if anybody has any questions, do raise your hand. I'll bring my microphone over to you so everyone can hear it. People who are tuning in on the live stream can hear it as well. So yeah, do raise your hand if you have a question for either of these two people.
We get a round of applause.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to do that again, but yeah, let's do it.
Hello there, so this one's for Graham. So I've been part of the MU for about 4 or 5 years now, and I'm really interested in your fair play scheme for venues. Is there any financial incentive for the venues for signing up to this scheme? For example, if a venue wants to pay a musician £50 to do I don't know, 3 45-minute sets and they're meant to be professional, for example, what would stop them from doing that? If there's no financial incentive, is there something back? Is there some advertising you could offer, for example, that's advantageous towards their business?
So one of the things is that they end up on the Fair Play Venues list. So this means that ultimately when musicians want to know which venues they should be wanting to engage with, they can start with that list, and part of that list is to tell them how to engage with venues as well. So you end up on the good list. Let's be honest. So if you want it, that's the truth. So we do encourage venues, to join. And actually, if a venue isn't currently on the venue scheme, and they want to be, we'd encourage them to get in touch, and we'll add to it as long as they can sign up to the principles we've discussed.
And will that influence the quality of music, or perhaps the demand, or the amount of people that might actually come to their business?
Well, as I said, I think the value of being deemed a reputable venue, I think, is what happens there. Again, that's the point of the scheme, is to say that someone signs up to being a fair play venue, and I hope so. Yes, this is what I hope to be the case.
Okay.
Anybody else? A question? Come over to you. Sorry, I'm running around. Lunatic.
This is James. Hi. The new feature that you mentioned sounds really cool, but I feel like there's a lot of factors that might get lost in the process. Like sometimes because I'm quite far out of London, for example, I often will turn away gigs that finish a bit too late because sometimes I don't want to be in London that late, etc., etc. So I'm wondering if there would be any sort of system to put like a preference list for gigs as well, because I will offer favoured wedding gigs as opposed to, say, an upbeat covers wedding birthday party or something like that. I was wondering if that could be incorporated or something like that.
Sorry, we got to.
Yes, that's an amazing idea, and I think we want to build this feature in a way that is completely customizable, so that you get to a point where you think, I completely trust this system to quote on my behalf. It takes into account all my preferences. So the ones that I showed you on the screen are the biggest ones that came up in our testing sessions. They're like the most requested features, you know, certain days of the week or certain months I'm going to charge more, and locations I might go to and locations I might not go to. But then, yeah, there's so many more factors. That's a really good one. Like, I don't want to take a gig that finishes past a certain point in a certain place. So we would love to hear all of your ideas for like how you think about which gigs to take beyond the obvious factors like location and date. And please do come and talk to us after this and just tell us all your ideas, because we want to make this like the best possible system for you. Also, I hope everyone's enjoying the minor third duet that's going on between these drills. It's a very weird soundtrack to this event. Sorry about that.
It's still not the same thing. I hope you remember voice.
I was quite nervous when you mentioned that, because it's something that we've dealt with in the past with another supplier, and we were doing so well with the supplier. Immediately that came, it shattered the briefings that we had, and
we've heard a lot of similar stories.
Because my main issue is we're acquired, so we're very flexible. We go up to 40p, so we can do 5 days in 1 day easy, because we have different units in different parts of the country. So how do we get to a place where, okay, yes, the system is getting gigs for us, but if that day is booked, does that mean that we can't take on any more gigs that day because it's booked? And things like the location. Sometimes what I do is, if we're going to be in Birmingham, if there's any gig around Birmingham that week, we'll take it and we'll just use that as a holiday and work system. So those are kind of things, if you could please put that into consideration when you put in.
Yeah, so yeah, there's two points to that. One is, that is exactly why we're doing groups after soloists, because there's so much more complexity. We completely understand that some groups do actually send out multiple bands on one day, or they are able to perform, you know, at 11 a.m. and again at 6 p.m. You don't want the calendar just to say, oh, you've got a gig at 11, that's the day gone. So you might have noticed in the calendar that we are thinking about sort of separating into like morning, afternoon, evening, so that you could be booked in the morning and still be free in the afternoon or the evening. So yes, we are going to take the sort of group part of this very slowly so that we don't get it wrong. And then on your first point about the other suppliers, so yeah, we've done a lot of, you know, competitive analysis and looking at what other people are doing, and we've heard a lot of musicians say that for platforms, the switch to this like instant quoting system was just done really badly, and it was too simple, or it didn't account for these nuances that you talked about. And in a way, that's why we put off trying to do it until now. Like, it feels like something we need to do, but it's such a difficult thing to get right. So we've already spent, I think, 6 months so far getting just to the point where 5 musicians feel like it's working for them as a soloist, and it'll take us another 6 to 9 months to get to a point where we really think it's working for groups. And we're doing these like weekly feedback sessions. So musicians tell us, this is good, but this doesn't work. I'm like, I'm not going to use it if it does that. And then we kind of tweak it and adapt it. So we're trying to build it with you, not for you. And again, please do come and talk to us afterwards and tell us about, you know, the things that you'd like it to account for.
Thank you.
Cool. I think we have a question from the live stream, which is very cool. I'm very excited by this.
Yeah, we have a question from Claire on the live stream, who's asking a question for James / Encore. Encore is, she actually said this is going to sound like I wrote it. Encore is so amazing at getting quality inquiries for the UK events. I was wondering whether there are any plans to also market to the international / destination wedding market, and secondary to that, how, if that were to be the case, how travel radius would be affected or how that would work differently.
That sounds like such a scripted question. I promise it's real. Firstly, thank you. It's a very nice thing to say about Encore, Claire. We were doing a few destination events. Like, we were doing quite a lot of them pre-COVID. And then obviously travel got a little bit trickier. And it was just about trying to get gigs, you know, near you, let alone getting into Europe. So we didn't really focus on it. And when events came back, to be honest, we were just trying to keep up with the demand for UK bookings. So we are now doing these destination events again. And at the moment, I'd say we're not actively trying to get customers who want to book, a band to fly out to Sardinia or like a soloist to go to the south of France. But they do find us, and we are doing some of those bookings. So yes, this system will account for that eventually, but right now Encore is mostly focused on bookings in the UK.
Does anybody else on the floor or in the live stream have a question before we move on? I just have one more question for both of you, which I'm quite interested to ask for different perspectives. Where have I put it? So yeah, going back to the theme of the evening, I guess we're in a cost of living crisis, and it's sometimes difficult to be optimistic. But in your opinion, how does a musician, who's a working musician now, set themselves up for success in the next few months? Maybe Graham, you go first.
I go back to what I spoke to some people at the table about actually, is about, and I mentioned the term I think already, portfolio career, and just being aware of that you're, as a musician, I'm not sure you're living this, so you don't need to be told, but the ultimate truth is that you're most likely to be making your money as a musician from doing multiple things. And I think don't fear that, embrace that. And it could be you make a bit of money from songwriting and composing, you could be making a bit from live, you could be making a bit from recording and broadcasting, you could be making from teaching, but just know your worth in all of those areas. And I think that's really important. So yeah, yes, embrace the portfolio career, but know that all of those areas are part of your career and have a value and a worth.
And the same question for you, James.
Yeah, a very similar answer. I would say think about upselling. And so if a customer comes to you and says, could you perform at my ceremony? There's no harm in asking them, yeah, of course I can. I could also do some music during the drinks reception if you like. So I'd say think about ways to upsell to your customers. If you run a band, then try to offer bigger lineups. I would also say we have a few musicians who joined Encore years ago who have been very entrepreneurial. They joined as a singer-songwriter with an acoustic guitar, and over time they've started to offer a DJ service, or they've formed multiple bands. And so they started out as a soloist, and now they offer duos and trios and 4-piece bands where the fees go higher and higher. So yeah, it's an incredibly difficult time, but I think try to, for every customer that's talking to you, just think, is there anything else that they might pay for that I might be able to charge them for? And yeah, at the end of the day, I think all the work that the MU is doing is fantastic, and just remembering that you're putting so much work into this, and people should really be paying you to come and deliver these incredible performances, and paying you a really good gig, not just the minimum. Yeah.
Fantastic. I think we'll leave it there. Good night. Sorry, you go for it.
Sorry.
Please do, yeah.
Because there'll be two things that I'll be going afterwards going, I didn't say these two things, so I need to say them. One is because of what I do in the regional office, one thing that I don't deal with is insurance, and it's actually a hugely important thing for people who perform live, is the fact they get their public liability insurance as part of their new membership. So that's one thing, and instrument insurance there is as well, but public liability insurance in particular. So, I forgot to say this, which is that if you're not a member of the MU already, you can actually join for £1, and it covers the first 6 months of your membership. After that you pay around £90 a month. So yeah, again, my big ask to everybody here is, if you're not a member already, check out what you can get from the MU via the website. And actually, if you are a member already, check out the website just in case there's stuff that you don't know you can be making the most of. Sorry, I needed to tell this to you. Thank you very much.
It's very, very important you say that. Let's have a round of applause. One question for Phil. Yeah, I'm shouting.
Can I just ask a little add-on to that? Pack testing. It's an absolute flipping nightmare. Every single year you have to get all your gear pack tested. If the MU, I don't know if you guys do already, but if there's a way of you maybe getting, regionally, here are some approved pack testers, and they'll give you a great deal because you're going to send all your guys to them, that would be, oh my God, that would make life so much easier.
So we have what you'll find on our website is there'll be a list of discounts available to MU members, and one of those services is, I believe, is pack testing. It is, yes, it is, yeah. So you can find that as an MU member on the website, a discount for MU members to do pack testing.
Does it also have a list of like, because it's actually finding someone who can actually be clean?
I think Nat is looking this one up, so I'll tell you what.
I often have to, I've just sent people to it and I never go review that. It's not a page, it's actually a visited.
So perhaps what I'd suggest is, we're going to be at the table afterwards. If there's any questions that we can give more specific examples to like that, just come and grab us and please ask. And also, I'll re-emphasise again, I don't know if I mentioned it already, take some free stuff. Otherwise I won't take it home.
Yeah, as I said, please do ask any more questions. We are all going to be around, so whether that's for Encore, whether that's for the Musicians Union, please do stick around and ask away. Can we just have a huge round of applause for Graham and Nat from the Musicians Union? I think James as well. And you guys as well. Yeah, we're going to be around probably till 9:30, 9:30. I know some of you have got profile clinics booked in with our team members. That's the end of the main programme, but I will say there is going to be a 2-minute break and we're going to have an informal jam, and we're going to get people coming up. If you want to play anything, if you want to jam out, we've got a guitar, we've got a cajon. If you want to collaborate with someone, if you want to start off, Johnny's going to be leading that, so tell him what you want to play, we can get your backing track, we're just going to have a bit of fun. There's going to be drinks around, and yeah, do come chat to us and give us your feedback. But yeah, big round of applause for you guys.